Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Severin and today we're speaking about the full moon in Cancer on the 29th of December in 2020. We are about to finish the old year and I think everybody's happy for that and is ready to start a new one. Although I have to tell you that the new one is not going to be an easier one. In the contrary, in my opinion, it's going to be an even harder one and a more challenging or even exciting one. And I will tell you more next year why that's the case. In this conversation today, I will explore a little bit more about themes of this full moon, and some of the themes are, one is the full moon in Cancer, of course, but technically we're still in an eclipse season, and that means the nodes are involved, and I share with you a little bit more. And the theme for this full moon is simply cleansing out the old. Then also, this full moon activates Kiron. There's an aspect between the sun and the moon with Kiron, and that activates the wounded healer. So we are invited to look upon the pain that has been probably coming up and feel that pain and that wound and become the explorer of our own wounds, because only then we can come from a place of empathy where we can actually feel and support another person and hopefully also create a better future, because our pain has actually a meaning. And then as well there is Neptune alive that brings in forgiveness and acceptance, and also a theme of dissolution of our own boundaries. These are some of the themes that I will explore with you, and on top of that there's another one which basically every astrologer already has said something, so I will share with you my part which is the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction that has been happening on the 20th of December this year. And that is an important event, a very important event, because for one, they have come together in 0 degrees Aquarius. So 0 degrees is the beginning of a new era, is the stepping point of stepping into a new journey, and especially bringing in more Aquarian energy. But not only that, whenever Saturn and Jupiter coming together, which is happening every 20 years, this is called a synodic cycle, they are normally staying in the same element. So for the last many hundred years they have been staying in Earth, and now for the last 20 years they have been an Earth element, but now for the next 200 years they will be in air signs, and that marks a different era on top of just the 0 degrees, that this is really bringing in a new domain of our lives. And how this will play out, well, we're just standing at the beginning of that very new age, we could say. So before I go into further details about the topics that I have been mentioning, I just want to say to all of you that have been with me during this year, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure for me and a challenge, and stepping into my own fear to embark upon the journey of going onto YouTube. And it's something that I have been learning a lot, and to simply share, not for more likes, but to actually share my own voice, become more vulnerable and hopefully also more authentic. And I really hope that this has supported you on your own journey, that it has been an inspiration, that it has brought up confirmation upon your inner journey that you are going through in your own life. And I really hope that you're staying with me for the coming years, where I will continue this exploration and finding my voice on YouTube, because I really find that for me, I'm not active on Facebook or Instagram, somebody's doing that for me. I really like that way of simply sharing a message on YouTube, and it's really beautiful of seeing that there are like-minded people out there and we can grow together. So saying that, I also want to let you know for the next 10 days I'm going to do a silent retreat here at our own retreat center, the Hermitage. So I will be in complete silence, which I'm looking very much forward to. And then also after that, from the first 3 months of 2021, I will actually be working with my favorite astrology teacher, and he will help me to refine my own approach of reading a birth chart, of supporting and counseling and coaching people on their life journey in addressing their purpose and their meaning of life, but also exploring their soul wound and understanding where they are standing in their own way and how they can become more of who they are already meant to be. And that's something that I'm gonna do for the next 3 months. So if you want to schedule a reading with me, I'm not available for the next 3 months. I'm from April again, I will be there for you. Same for all the people that have been a part of my private WhatsApp group. You can reach out to me again in April. For now, I will only give you a reading if you're showing up personally at our retreat center, and I will be there for you. So that's all for now. And let's go together into the full moon in Cancer for now. So let's use the birth chart to explore a little bit more depth for this full moon in Cancer. Here we have the Sun in Capricorn and on the other side the Moon, and the nodes are still involved. Well, that simply means we're coming from a place where we have the South Node in Sagittarius, where we believe in an old way, in an old narrative, perhaps even an illusion. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we are invited to come into a place where it's more playful, where it's more exploring, where there's a freshness and an openness to what really is there. And that doesn't mean that we have to throw the old away, that we have to let go and come up to a new perspective. And that can be very challenging, because who are we if we don't know? And that can be scary for us. So letting go of an old domain and stepping into a new perspective is really the invitation. And then is also this full moon is really a highlighting of bringing up what is then the old. Because Capricorn is connected with the old. It's a domain of Saturn. It's where we have been working upon the entire year, and Pluto is still there for the next 3 years until 2023 to grind a little bit more away of the old. And this South Node and North Node is an invitation for the next 2 years to really decondition of who we thought we are and what we wanted, and perhaps more realize that what we need is not something that we know intellectually, but that we can feel into, and it's more an explorative journey. And for that we have to actually make space, and by making space, this full moon in Cancer is a domain where we emotionally come into touch with has been so difficult and challenging perhaps. What has been the wounds that have been coming up, the pain, the challenges, the boundaries that we didn't know even that were there, the anxieties, the worries, the fears, the anger, the sadness, and so on that have been coming up this year. And then this full moon might be an invitation to feel them, relive them now from a place where we can look back and say, okay, I can see now how this actually has been an invitation for growth, for opportunity, for maturation, and also becoming more vulnerable, and perhaps even becoming more grateful of what we didn't even take for granted before. I think a lot of the coronavirus really puts us into a domain where it's the unknown, where we have to become more flexible. And then that's also to admit that we perhaps are not so strong and successful and having it all together as it seems from the outside, but perhaps that we are much more fragile and that we are much more in need of care, love, attention, and belonging, and perhaps even human touch, and somebody that's hugging us and saying, it's okay, I'm still here, even though you might feel that you are falling apart. But in that comes a lot of meaning. So from there, I'm already bringing up some of the themes of Chiron. You see here the moon and the sun are squaring Chiron. And Chiron is really like that domain in us that we are coming in touch with our own wounds. And I really hope that for a lot of you listening, you are in that domain where you are a healer. And I think everybody, especially now in the time where we are in between the space of falling and occurring, it's like this place where we are falling and occurring. So the old is not gone yet and the new hasn't occurred. We are in the between phase. And that means we have become actually masters in our own descent. So it's almost we are exploring our own wound, our own pain a little bit more. And only through that actually wisdom is gained. When we are becoming actually aware of what is the voice or the meaning or the sensation of our own challenges or pain or frustration that has been occurring there. And that's then Chiron, where we are actually healing. And healing is not that we are trying to fix somebody else out there, that we're trying to somebody else tell them what they have to do, that we are ourselves becoming actually more intimate with our own pain. And from that, we are actually also growing more empathy to maybe others that are in pain. And I think that's where I feel personally I have been involved very much this year, where I have even been feeling sometimes as an imposter, like knowing so much and trying to give language and understanding, but actually trying sometimes to help somebody else while I'm not even able to hold my pain. And with then going into the discomfort, the anger, the pain, the frustration, the sorrow, the sadness, and stay there a bit longer, we're becoming the master of our own discomfort. And if we are able to hold that a little bit longer, then we are actually becoming that wounded healer. We are so familiar with that pain, that discomfort, that so-called negative, that we are realizing that there is nothing wrong with it, that actually within everybody there is this Chiron, this innate healer, and that you yourself are having the capacity, when I give you the acceptance and allowance and even meaning to stay and marinate a little bit longer in that domain, that you actually can hold your own pain and heal yourself. And that comes when somebody tries not to fix you, not to change you, and allowing you the way you are. And in that, this Chiron, this wounded healer, is something that is activated right now. So it's another invitation to let go and cleanse of whatever has been happening, and emotionally to relive whatever has been coming up for us. Then the next domain is Neptune, here in Pisces. And this has some positive aspects to the moon and to the sun as well. So this can be a highlight where we can see that we have basically done the difficult, emotional and challenging work. You know, a lot of times this year was where we were not trying to actually understand, but actually we were fighting so hard for something that has been feeling familiar with us. And then we try to actually hold on to something that doesn't any longer function or work for us. And by letting go, we are coming out with a fresh perspective. And the result then is actually we feel lighter, and we don't even know necessarily what has been shifting. And finding meaning for that is then where we can suddenly see how that probably wasn't all part of us, that was perhaps out of fear, out of pain, out of resentment or rejection, was there to protect us, but that we don't any longer need that part, and then we can forgive an old story. Again, we come into that Capricorn old story, where we're letting go of the old, and we can actually see the meaning in it, and we can let go, and we can become lighter and find forgiveness in that it was there for a reason. We didn't lose time in the last year, but we had to go deeper. And I think that's a continuous journey for the next year in particular, that we have to go deeper into the underground and really explore and become masters of the rejected, something that has been buried in the subconscious, and that now through pain, through agony, through challenge in the year of 2020, it's coming up to the surface, and we can find a different approach consciously with it, and we can consciously forgive and accept it, and therefore we don't reject it anymore, but it can be part of ourselves. So I think that's a really big theme with Neptune there as well. So when I'm saying that, I'm already bringing actually in the bigger topic, which is then here Saturn and Jupiter are in the beginning phase of Aquarius. And when we look at that, then we can actually say that Aquarius stands for the future, for what is coming and what we are heading into. And I'm actually a bit tired of all this, you know, saying of like we're stepping into a new age and it's a new era, a paradigm shift. It's like, wow, and then we're going into brotherhood and love and equality, and it's going to be all better and it's all going to be great. That's not my opinion. I think we are just shifting the stage, like where we are playing a role, and it's almost the background of the stage gets a new image and it looks a bit different. But being human, there's always the scenario is always that there is a problem and that there are solutions. And I think we will see that we will be in the future more into going into extremes, where there will be more violence, there will be more separation, there will be more innovation, there will be more technology, there will be more artificial intelligence, there will be more virtual reality, there will be more automatization, there will be more an age where we have a digital currency, where we have autonomy. And that leads to great possibilities, but also to great disconnections of our human beingness, of our soul, and of meaning. And that then leads us into even more to realize that we need to come back to ourselves, where we will come back to simplicity, to autonomy in communities, where we are independent and where we are autonomous and have our own resources of the basic human needs of water, of food, and perhaps electricity. And this is really then what we need. So I think we will go more into extremes. And if you have seen Minority Report, that's a little bit more where I see ourselves going, more control, because it's useful in the age that we are. And that's what I'm predicting a little bit. But simultaneously, there will be more in the sense like this retreat centers and places where we are even more connected with the nature, with ourselves, and we're becoming more actually in touch with ourselves because there is so much disconnection. So I don't think it's just going to be wonderful and beautiful new era. I think every new era comes with its own difficulties and challenges. So having said that, I believe that because Pluto is here for the next 2 years, we will still for the next 2 years, we will go into a downfall, like basically on a journey of darkness, where we have to explore our own inner rejected parts, and we have to only go deeper within ourselves. And you could say that's like a difficult period. I think 2021 will be more challenging. And this all for the benefit that we are becoming more actually in touch with our own biases. So we could even say that you can only handle as much rising energy as you have been able to handle like the descending energy. So it's not possible to just rise more without going down. And that's the beginning of this time where we're seeing Saturn and Jupiter being at the beginning of Aquarius. They're bringing in new themes, new challenges, and we will be for the next year or two as long as Saturn is there, because Saturn is actually the ruler of Capricorn. So we have the ruler of Capricorn and Pluto here for the next 2 years. So we have Capricorn alive, and then for Aquarius, we have the ruler is Uranus, which is in Taurus. So we have the future and we have the old, and both of them are playing out. And actually next year, 3 times Saturn and Uranus are meeting with each other. So that means basically the old is meeting with the new. And that can actually bring great possibilities. It can bring great new opportunities, but at the same time, it will also challenge us of what has not been making space, of what is still there as a rigid foundation and has to fall away in order for the new ideas to come in. And I think in that way, we can almost see it as a way of like with one foot, we are in the past, we are still in the Capricorn time where it's about capitalism, it's about producing, it's about functioning, it's about becoming more affecting, about growing, it's about consuming more. And in that sense, it's about this top-down, bottom-down authority where it's about big centers or corporations which hold a lot of power. And then there is this other side, the future, where it's much more about the individual, about together we are strong, not one person. It's about becoming more generous in the sense that everybody has the right of a basic human like standard income and health support, that we are actually supporting each other, and that we are also automizing the jobs that nobody wants to do, and therefore you can really actually step in what you really feel like you want to do. So there's a lot of new opportunities and potentials, but also the old stands in the way. And what comes alive then, and that brings us back to the South Node and the North Node, where we basically stepping with one foot in the old domain and with the other foot in the new, and we are realizing how we are living paradox, and that we cannot just step into the future, or that we just have to kind of go back into the old, but we have to find a solution between the two. And that means we have to realize that they are simply two sides and that there is not one answer. And in that perspective, we actually have to embrace the duality and rise above. And that then is not actually fight towards one or the other, but actually meet in the middle and find a new way of being. And rather than finding a mental solution, we have to incorporate that both places are real within us, and from that comes a new solution. So that's really the invitation for next year. And I think when we see that happening with Uranus, that can be that there will be even more a downfall in 2021, which I also see perhaps in the financial aspects, where the stock market and our financial way of living can potentially have a big downfall. And that's only there in the sense of, like, when we're speaking about Aquarian age, it means community. And when we speak about community, it means that something so deep is happening that it pulls everybody together. It's a little bit like when you see these alien movies of, like, suddenly we forget every threat that we're having on, or differences on the world, because we have now one enemy from the outside, and an alien is appearing, or extraterrestrial force, and now we have to all pull together to fight something bigger than ourselves. So our little human problems, or little issues in our own country, in our own village, in our own personal lives doesn't matter anymore, because something so big is happening that pulls us all together. And that's the meaning of community. We are finding unity, but sometimes something very bad and something very drastic has to happen in order that we find that common strength again. And that is what the unity means. So therefore, I'm actually much more drawn to more negative is happening, because it gives us the capacity to realize that the negative is not bad. It actually brings out the best in us. So with these words, I really hope you can digest the old year. You can find some emotional peace, some healing, and some forgiveness. And I hope we're going to see us in the next year. And I wish you all the best. And I hope you keep your mental, emotional, and physical health the best possible way. Goodbye.